Hello everybody, welcome. I'm No02, and thank you for watching this video. This is my third deck that I am posting for solo no hope mode for Act 5 specifically. So we're playing with bots, and we are playing Act 5. But why 3 decks? The first 2 decks were sort of like the earliest deck and then the improvement upon it, with the key element of those 2 decks being that I was running 0 expansion cards, or cards from expansion 2. Duffel bag grind. I know it's better now slightly. They reworked it, they buffed it, but it's still a grind. I imagine that some of y'all folks out there hadn't collected your duffel bags yet, hadn't found the time, or doing it the legit way and actually just playing the game normally and grinding slowly. So, for those of you who want to beat Act 5, solo no hope, but don't really have the expansion 2 cards yet, those decks are there for you. If you do have the expansion 2 cards here, this is the deck that I've been running, having a lot of good success with it. We actually only sprinkled in 2 cards from the expansion, but they make, I think, rather huge impacts here. We'll start with the top and we'll get there eventually, right? Hazard Pay. Share the Wealth does not trigger properly. So when it comes to Hazard Pay versus Money Grubbers, Money Grubbers requires you to take a hive or have a Cost of Avarice mission, like every 3 to 4 missions. Otherwise, Hazard Pay will eventually outpace Money Grubbers in the long run. I like the consistency for the most part. And when it comes to Bounty Hunter, I know people have mentioned that before. We're sort of mid-maxing Bounty Hunter for an extra 50 copper. I tend to find, though, that if you're moving on a good pace, sometimes you don't hit the Bounty Hunter. Sometimes you don't make it. And so we're like mid-maxing for an extra 50 copper at the risk of getting less than what we would normally. That being said, though, in Act 5, the Shredders, the Jar Slingers, the Arrow people, they spawn a lot, it feels like. And so Bounty Hunter's probably also a really solid choice here. But I just love Hazard Pay. It's reliable. You don't need to worry about it. You don't get punished for playing fast because we want to play fast. We're like, we're Sonic or whatever. Next, we have Offensive Scavenger. As far as cards go in the game that gives us more stuff to throw, Offensive Scavenger is just the best. It's more reliable than Magician's Apprentice. We're not going to have a support slot, so opportunity to have things in our hands to get a reuse chance on has been cut in half for the most part, right? Cut in a third, because we don't have a support slot. So again, it's just, I think Offensive Scavenger is just better overall versus Magician's Apprentice, especially since when it comes to reuse chance or getting extra loot, the thing that we care most about getting is extra grenades, extra things to throw. Offensive Scavenger is just the best at doing that, because that's all it does. Especially with Offensive Scavenger, we can get extra Molotovs to throw if we come across them. We can set up for Horde events. If you find a flashbang, you can remember where it is. Your Breaker boss spawns, your Hag boss spawns, whatever. You can go back to your flashbang. You can set up there, fight the Breaker there, stun him to prevent the Horde event, things like that. Offensive Scavenger just gives us way more options and opportunities throughout the entire mission, on every mission, as we go through the campaign. Offensive Scavenger, pretty much a must-have card, I think. In a lot of no hope solo stuff going on here. Extra grenade slots, because the more things you can throw and carry, the best. With that being said, I would typically always leave the safe room with my slots filled fully. I don't like to use Offensive Scavenger to get to full. I like to use Offensive Scavenger to stay full throughout the entire mission. So I always leave the safe room fully kitted out, ready to go. 4 grenades minimum. Bomb Squadron provides explosives. Just enough grenade damage so that if we were to upgrade our grenades over time, we have the option to grenade dump bosses with some bot down boosting and stuff like that. And having these 2 cards just sort of mid-maxes our ability to deal damage with our grenades in a variety of circumstances, whether that be grenade upgrades or bots going down and things like that. Fire in the hole, lots of extra healing because we're throwing lots of stuff, but also a really nice panic button, right? It turns our grenades into panic buttons where we can just grenade our feet when we're getting swarmed and like sprint jump somewhere, get the safety. The temporary health helps to absorb some of that damage. It's quite nice. Run like hell and superior cardio. I typically talk about how having dash, those 3 cards here, run like hell, superior cardio, and dash are like the bare minimum as far as like sprint speed, stamina, efficiency stuff to sort of kite hordes of zombies for a long time. We're cutting dash out because Act 5 doesn't really have a whole lot of demand for sprint speed, and a lot of the missions are gated by having to put door breaches on a lot of the doors and save people and things like that. And a lot of the missions were like inside a cave or inside a prison, in confined areas, there's just not a lot of places where you end up having to like 3D zoom other than like the last mission and a little arena area where it's best to stay still anyways. So we cut out the movement speed card and we put in headband magnifier. I personally don't mind the blinding effect. A long time ago, they sort of nerfed the blinding effect. They reworked it. They reworked the flashing effect. It's not nearly as bad as it was before. So I like it. Just most bang for your buck use chance. If you're running this card, you get stuck in a bear trap. You can get out of the bear trap with like 3 stacks of bleed, maybe 4. 2 if you have Carly on your team, things like that. Really quite nice and saves you a lot of health. Especially since we're not running a support slot, we have no option as far as like healing ourselves real quick to remove the stacks of bleed. The headband magnifier thing is really nice just overall because there's so much opportunity for use speed in Act 5 specifically. Even in the finale, which is relatively tame, being able to plant those bombs super quickly and just get to the truck before like the first couple of horde events trigger at all is really convenient. Like the extra use speed just makes some of these missions way, way, way easier. And gives us the ability to potentially plant the door breaches under stress. Imagine the scenario. There's a horde event chasing us. We can T5 and then plant something. And hopefully get away safely, things like that. So the extra use speed comes in useful a lot of the times. Next is Food Scavenger. Yes, Food Scavenger. I cut out Cold Brew Coffee from the previous deck and put in Food Scavenger. Again, to help compensate for our lack of support slot. We have the extra healing of Food Scavenger. We have the extra healing of Amped Up, Fire in the Hole, and eventually Pyro. Between all of those things, you can stay unbelievably healthy in a lot of these missions. Not only that, Food Scavenger helps compensate for a couple of the things that Cold Brew Coffee has. A reload speed, and I think swap speed and things like that. Extra stamina regen. Food Scavenger, super versatile, extra damage. Love it, love it, love it. And plus extra trauma healing with Peaches, right? Just like real life. Shredder. The extra damage with Shredder helps us to kill bosses way, way easier. It sets up our grenades a little bit better than we were before without Shredder. And when it comes to dealing with all of the smaller mutations, like the Reekers, the Stinger variants, as well as the Colt variants, where there seems to be tons of them all the time, being able to save a grenade here or there because we have just enough bullet damage to burst them down without the need of a grenade is a huge benefit, like a huge, huge benefit. And so being able to comfortably shoot a Shredder down and not use a grenade can save you a lot of copper and save you grenades for later on when the tall boy does show up and things like that, or when things really do get scary. A lot of opportunities here. Basically save a grenade overall. Now we have Expired T5. We replaced Admin Reload to Expired T5. It's such a good card. When it comes to the Phantom Hordes and things like that, or the constant horde spawning points, there's a lot of points where you need to sort of just like force your way into an area. Expired T5 makes it free. Allows you to do that super comfortably. Super solid. You can protect yourself when you're planting the door breachers, things like that, or planting the bombs at the end. There's so many opportunities for T5 to just keep you safe while you do something else. Super solid card. It plays into Pyro, giving us that extra health, enough damage to eliminate pretty much all of the common zombies. And of course, if we find any extra weak spot damage, these cards all of a sudden potentially become interesting buys, because if we can sort of buy our way into having a lot of extra weak spot damage, all of a sudden we have an alternative to our grenades where we can actually melt tall boys with them and things like that. So kind of interesting opportunities that T5 gives us. In addition to that, you may notice we cut out Pinata. We don't have Pinata. When it comes to Pinata, think about what you want. In the quick slot, we want toolkits and sometimes defibs for the most part, right? Occasionally you'll pick up the stun gun. But other than that, we want, right, but the bulk of the things that we want from Pinata were either support slot items or throwables. And now that we can't utilize support slot items, I've been finding that about half of the time when Pinata would end up triggering, if it was a support item, it didn't feel good. I couldn't pick it up. It was useless, right? And so I found that Expired T5 kind of hurt Pinata's chances as far as getting something that we want or needed, or that we can even use to begin with. We cut out Pinata and basically put in Pyro. Now we have tons of health and healing. and Fresh Bandage. Fresh Bandage, kind of a sort of a clutch, not clutch card, crutch. Sort of a crutch card here. We have so much extra temporary health with Pyro now and extra healing with Food Scavenger that I've been finding less and less value out of Fresh Bandage, but I just want to keep it in here because if anything goes wrong, any huge mistakes or little mistakes, right? Fresh Bandage will sort of like keep you healthy over the course of the run because of the trauma recovery. And if you are in a really bad spot, Fresh Bandage is hope that if you can get through the next mission, maybe the mission after that, almost perfectly and not take too much damage, then Fresh Bandage will sort of net gain you over health. And Fresh Bandage can give you the opportunity to sort of recover health-wise from a mission that's gone wrong. Things like that. But I still really like Fresh Bandage. Between all of the healing that we have, you pretty much never need to use a medicine cabinet. Use it just for the bots, right? And you say super healthy, saves you copper. Solid. And so this deck, I think, is just like, it's got the punches where it needs it. It's super safe overall. Like, it's hard to die with this deck because of all the temporary health and healing that we have over the course of the mission. It's sweet. It's a really fun deck to play. Expire T5. Great button to push. Let me know what you think of this deck. I think Food Scavenger is a pretty good card. Let me know. Let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the future.